And since we always have a Wednesday night Bible class, we decided to just have kind of an open forum, extended type class. And during this time, and also we won't be going till midnight tonight, but we'll go as long as the Lord desires us to go. And then we had another one of our brothers who wasn't going to be able to be here on Tuesday night, would be able to be here on Wednesday night, but he's not here now anyway. He may yet be here. He may yet be here. So we're here with you on the January the 1st. And and that's good. We're not waiting for an old to pass out and a new to come in. We've already found that in Christ. So we are here celebrating the new. How about that? Okay, good. And we don't really have an agenda set before us, but there are some things that we would like to talk with you about concerning ministry, concerning the Lord's direction for our fellowship, and I think for the Lord's body in this coming year. And so we'll take that, and then we're also going to have a time of just open forum, and we would like very much for you during that time, if you have something that you would like for us to deal with, to talk about, you can give us a call. You can call me on my cell phone. You can call Rabin on his cell phone. Or you can email while we're live. We will get the email. Is that right? Yeah, the email will come right in while we're live. And I encourage you to do that, because we're not going to be rushed for time tonight. So I encourage you to do that. I just talked with Brother Robert Jones on the telephone, and he's watching this service tonight. And so I know for sure it's going out. So I invite the rest of you who are with us to take advantage of this time. Now, tomorrow we're mailing the monthly CD, and with it there is another CD. And it was done maybe 2 to 3 Sundays ago, and it seemed to be the mind of the Lord and the desire of others that saw that session Sunday morning, that we would make that available to as many as possible. So we decided that we would just do that we would, and Rabin took it off of the soundtrack and all of that from the Sunday morning live session, and made a CD out of it, and we're sending that CD in the same mailer with your monthly CD, and I trust that it will be a blessing to you. And in that CD, I made a statement. I'm just going to read it. I've got the outline of the monthly CD right here, and of the study that we'll be looking at, and you'll be hearing that study. The series is called Vessels of Glory. And now, not glorified vessels, but vessels of glory. And in preparation for that, there is a work of the Spirit in the body of Christ and the work of the Spirit in our hearts in preparation for God to have His vessels of glory. And there are three definite views, three definite realities of Christ that is necessary to God having the kind of vessel that He is after. He, of course, has that in His Son. And we'll look at that in depth as we go into that study, and we're not going to do that tonight. But I do want to just pick up on that there are these four things, and it has to do, one is the king, and the other is the kingdom, and the other is the sovereign will, the will of God, which is sovereign, the sovereign will. And the fourth term is glory. And as the Lord was dealing with my heart about that, I was pretty, I thought at least I was established in what He was after concerning vessels of glory, but I simply could not see what king and kingdom and will and glory related to that had to do with it. But I couldn't get away from it. And so I did what I usually do, when in doubt, I do a word search. And so I got into the scripture on king and kingdom and sovereign will and glory. And in that whole time, the Lord began to really break in my heart a view of Christ that in the order of the divine working of the Holy Spirit, in the order of things, bringing us from one thing to another reality, to yet a greater reality, to another reality of Christ. And in the order of that things, there's a time when we must come to see Him as the King. Where there's no king, there's no kingdom, you understand. Because the kingdom is not a thing in addition to or other than the king. The kingdom actually means the rule, the sovereign rule of the king. And it can be, it can cover a period of time, but it can never be defined or measured in time. It has to be measured in the king himself. The kingdom of that king is only good as long as that king is alive, or as long as he is king. And that covers years. Yes, it does. And sometimes in the Bible, those years are very significant. 40 years, and they're significant. But still, the measure of the kingdom is not in the years that it covers, nor is it in the people upon whom it comes. You understand that? No. Israel was not the beginning and the ending of the kingdom. A kingdom came upon Israel, and Israel functioned in that kingdom in the very purpose of God. But then you'll also, you know that Israel functioned before that, and then Israel fell away from that and all the problems that came. My point is that the kingdom is measured only by the king. And it is that view of Christ to which we must come, because immediately when we come to view Christ as king, his kingdom begins to work in us. And sovereign will is the power by which the kingdom works. It is an awesome thing. And we're not going into it tonight. We will do that in the next period of time as the Lord directs us. But sovereign will is a tremendous thing. And And you see, God was not yet ready for Israel to be under any king than himself. But Israel pushed it. We always do, don't we? I mean, no doubt, you know, when there's a moving of the Lord's Spirit among those in whom Christ really dwells, a moving of the Spirit in the body of Christ, many of us get a hold that God's doing something. And you know, and some even kind of get a hold of maybe the direction he's going. But the fatal fault of us is not waiting for the Lord to actually do it. We want to do it ourselves. We want to do it. And many times we get up and try to do it. And it seems like with the greater view of Christ, that becomes a greater danger. Becomes a greater danger. The greater the view of Christ, the greater the working of Christ, the greater the danger is we'll try to run out and be that, or run out and do that, or run out before the Lord, rather than putting the ark 2,000 cubits out in front of you and keeping it there, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher. Well, all right, we'll leave that alone. But God understood that. They weren't ready for this sovereign will stuff. Well, look at them under the judges. Look at them. Come on, hon. How many judges did they actually have? A whole slew of them. And every one of those judges represents an elevated view of the Son of God. It actually represents God revealing his Son. But in those times, it was only in a way that it solved the immediate situation. And that's how it is, you know, that's how it is with you and I. And that's not a bad thing. But generally, there's always another situation right around the corner. And it was with Israel. So they were out of bondage, in bondage, out of bondage, in bondage. And right at the end of that book, it says there was no king in Israel. And every man pretty well did according to his how he thought it ought to be done. They weren't ready for a king, but they forced one. And there's a place where where the father tells Samuel, he says, okay, and it's kind of like this. I'm ad-libbing, but it's kind of like this. At least here's what I'll do under Saul. I'll do one thing under Saul, because God knew Saul wasn't going to make it. I'll show them what it means to be under a king. They have no idea what it means to be ruled by somebody else's will in a sovereign manner. They have no conception of what that is all about. They never have had, because I have never enforced it in the way that it will be enforced by a king. Once the kingdom comes upon them, and in our case, raises up within us. Totally different now. Totally different. Well, see, I keep wanting to go on with that, but the point is, they weren't ready. Saul wasn't ready to be a king. Israel wasn't ready to have a king. But they learned a great deal of what it meant to be under a king, you know. And then the time came for the king, and everything was different. And we'll look at all of that. But what my point tonight is, this is the working of God in the heart of a believer, but actually believers. Believers. For God's desire for any believer is the same for all believers. And his desire for the whole is the same for every part of it. And there's nothing, no view of Christ that I know anything about. Not that I walk in that view, but there's no view of Christ that I know anything about that will bring that into a reality as much as seeing him as king. Because immediately when he's king of one, he's king of all. King of everybody. See? You understand? There's some things, and I know that's probably so with every view of Christ, but it is more so with king. It is more so with king. And because I can be in one view of Christ because of a need that's in my soul, and you can be in another view of Christ. Same Christ, but you're being dealt with perhaps in another view of him because of a need in your soul. But when it comes time for the Lord to begin to reveal the king, I have to believe that he has believers, more than one. I believe it is going to become a corporate view, a view that is brought forth in more than one. Because kingdom begins to operate. The reality of his kingdom begins to operate. And the power of that is the sovereign will, and we'll leave it. And then the end of that is the glory. And you will see that. Where do you really see the greater glory in the Scripture of the teaching with regard to Israel? Yes, some, but it's on Mount Sinai, separated from the people. Another, but it's in the tabernacle and all of that. And that happens upon one or two occasions, but still it's different. And even the cloud and the pillar of fire, that's certainly symbolic of glory. Yet they're in a different relationship to the people. But finally, in this business of the king and of Solomon and of the temple, glory comes to its own. Glory comes to its fullness. And we begin to see why Christ is priest, high priest, yes, and King of kings and Lord of lords. And see, we know that. We all know that. But that doesn't mean we've all faced that inwardly in our soul. But I think it is my belief. I truly believe that in this coming year, in this period of time that is ahead of us. So we're facing a new year, but I'm not giving anybody a prediction for the year 2014. But, we have come through, many of us individually, maybe all of us individually, I know me, but as a fellowship, we are just coming out, more or less, emerging from a tremendous time of transformation. Great death, out from which will come great life. Great death, out from which shall come great life. I truly believe that. And I believe that in this coming year, at least as a beginning, that is ahead of us, that there will be a time when those who have eyes to see and a heart set upon knowing the indwelling Son of God will indeed see the coming, or better said maybe, the revealing and manifesting of the power of the kingdom and the working of the sovereign will in a way never experienced before in their souls, in their lives, jointly, corporately, and in their ministry. The kingdom is in you and it is in me because Christ is. And the working of that kingdom and the exercise of that sovereign will is indeed extreme. And we've been looking at extreme salvation. I think we have yet to see what is extreme. The extreme salvation is that there's one, it's in one man, one person, one son. But have we seen the extremity and extremeness of that son? And I think the view of him as King of Kings, name of names, Lord of Lords, is such an extremeness. Now, in the light of that, in the light of having a glimpse of what I believe the Lord is doing and why he is doing it and how he will, every transition is connected to and actually caused by a revealing of Christ in a way that he has not been revealed before. Every transition. It was so all through Israel in the type and shadow of all those transitional periods in Israel. It all focused around a view of Christ that they had not seen before. And there's no exception to that. There is no exception. Look at them walking over, entering into Canaan. They had never actually seen the Ark of the Covenant as they were now seeing the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant had never moved in the midst of Israel or in Israel as it was now moving out in front, 2,000 cubits, on the shoulders of the priest, standing in the... You understand what I'm talking about? But that culminated in something else. It culminated in the man who appeared to Joshua and said, I am the captain. And that means king. I am the king. I am the king. And immediately, we begin to get a little glimpse of what we finally come to in David and Solomon. We get a little glimpse of who's running this show. Me or you? Who's running this? You know, well, are you for them or are you for us? Neither. This is totally about me. Totally about me. And by the way, take your shoes off. You're standing on holy ground. You know, and you begin to just get a glimpse that this is going to be a little different view. This is going to be a different deal for Israel. They hadn't walked this way before. In fact, the Lord says, you have not walked this way heretofore. Well, darling, that's where we are. As sure as Christ is in us, that's where we are. And the we, I guess, that I'm really talking about is those who are seeing the Lord. Those who have a heart to see him. Those who have a desire to know him. Hallelujah. So, because of that, I want to just project some things. Now, that's about the end of the teaching on my part or anything like that. But I want to talk to you about some things we have planned. And this is just an introduction here tonight. And we have a lot of things that we're going to be doing together. Things that will be affecting us here locally and affecting us on behalf of and in ministry relating to our whole fellowship. Our whole fellowship. Because I'm made to be aware that there is very little and probably nothing that transpires here, that the Lord does here, or that we do here, that is not in some way related to and affecting our whole fellowship. And that's probably so in every area of this fellowship. Probably it is so right where you are, But I know it is so here, and the Lord has dealt with us, and it has to do with, and it really has to do, we'll see it as we go along in the year, it has to do with the kingdom that is in you, which is realized in you through the revealing of the King and exercised in you through His sovereign will. And it's all toward having a vessel which is made up of vessels of glory. That kingdom may have influence throughout the earth, and I'm primarily talking about throughout the church, the Lord's body, but also throughout the earth. I want to talk to you about outreach. Outreach. And I'm not going to take a terrible long time to do it, but I want to say something to you, and I want you to think about it. I've had several ministries talk to me over the last few months. Some I've been sitting down looking them face to face. And these have been good conversations that I was well pleased to have. But these brothers were greatly burdened in their own soul. And in some cases not knowing exactly what it was all about, but they knew that with them the status quo could not remain. And it wasn't that they wanted to jump up and run out and do anything, and said as much, but just felt something had to be done, and that there was something yet to be done, not in Christ, nothing relating to that, but in their lives and in service. And I listened in every case, talked with them in every case, and in some cases we talked about one thing and another in related to that. But perhaps we can gather some of that up tonight in what I feel that the Lord is setting before us as a fellowship, and it's going to affect every ministry and every individual. Because, son, the fellowship is not something I belong to, it's who I am along with you. I mean, it's not some big something that we all belong to. No, it's who we are. It's who we are. And it is the realization of Christ into which we are coming. That's what it is. First of all, here locally, we've been talking some time about kind of broadening the name of our local work here, of our local work. We never knew what to call it. Because C.M.I. stands for a fellowship, and right here in this place, we're not the whole fellowship, yet we're a very vital part of it. And we function accordingly. And some of the things that relate to the fellowship function here that don't function everywhere. But the point is, we're still not the whole fellowship. I mean, the fellowship C.M.I. does not exist here and then everybody else belongs to it. That's not the way it works. You understand that? No. And we kind of pieced this together by the Lord dealing with one of us and then another and then discussion and so forth. And we thought we would like to call this, and we're presenting it. No one's heard anything about this so yet because we just kind of buried it. and then went on. It wasn't time to talk about it anyway, but it's time now. And we thought we would just like to call this place something along the lines of the Midwest Center for Truth. Center for Truth is a sure thing. Center for Truth. Now I'm going to share with you in just a moment. I'm going to read something to you. Why? Something, I don't know when it was written, probably 10 years ago. I'm going to read it to you. Center for Truth. And in presenting that, we present that like this, that the campus, or the acreage, whichever you want to call it, the land that we have here for the Midwest Center of Truth houses C.M.I. Bible Research Center. And it does that. That it also houses the C.M.I. Residential Center. And it does that. And then it houses the C.M.I. Conference Center. And it does that. Those three things are housed. And we use the term C.M.I. because that's Covenant Ministries International, or actually the International Fellowship of Covenant Ministries, but C.M.I. The Bible Research Center, you see, relates as much to our whole fellowship, to you who are in Tennessee or Georgia or Texas or all of the other states. Every time I forget half of them. But anyway, it relates as much to you as it does to us. You know that. When we started the Research Center, it did all of the printing for everybody in this fellowship. Every minister, the printing was done of their books and their lessons, and all of it was done through the Research Center. And so it reached out that way. It still does that, but fortunately, and in the timing of the Lord, there are other parts of our fellowship who print also, and who are able to advance upon that and increase upon that. And I'm just saying thank God for it, because we work together with every part of this fellowship. But we're still here, and we still do, from time to time, print, publish for any number of other ministries throughout this fellowship. So what I'm saying, it's a work done locally, but it's not just a local work. The Research Center reaches far out beyond itself. In the CDs, in the DVDs, and in some other things you're going to hear. In this service right here tonight, this is a production of C.M.I. Bible Research Center. This right here tonight. Everything we have on the internet, live by internet, relates to the Bible Research Center. But it reaches out far beyond the Research Center. And it does that more than it relates to our local fellowship gathering that is here. Because we also have a local fellowship that gathers here. And we worship together here. And then the residential center that we have. It amounts to some bedrooms and the kitchen and bathrooms and whatnot. But we didn't build that for ourselves. We built that for visitors who come in. And those who would come in and spend a period of time, maybe a long period of time. Some as students, some as those who want to come in and involve themselves, and all of that. And it's the same thing with the conference center. How often is this place a conference center? Well, actually one time a year. But at that time, it facilitates ministry for people from throughout the United States. And so we wanted something that would tie that together, but that would be what we are locally. And so we're going to use that probably as the Midwest, and we've tossed that around, Center for Truth. And because that's what all of these other ministries here and all of these things that are facilitated here are all about. Truth. Truth. Hallelujah. You shall know the truth. See? Isn't that really truth? Center for truth. Hallelujah. Well, this is, now, it seems to be anymore, there's very little that I say that I don't confuse about as many people, if not more, than I satisfy. So just let me say this. This has nothing to do with the gifts you send, with the support you send. If you're supporting Bible Research Center, that doesn't change. The mailing address doesn't change. The bank accounts don't change. You understand? If you're supporting missions, that doesn't change. You don't make checks out to the Center of Truth. You make checks out just exactly the way you do now. There are no changes, you understand, with regard to the things that you support that's going on here in this place. In the Research Center, or in the Conference Center, or in any other, the missions outreach, that account is here as well. And that all remains the same. And I felt like I needed to say that because I knew if I didn't, I would be getting some calls and letters. And then I just didn't want anybody confused. But I knew I'd be hearing, now, how are we to do our gifts that we send in? Well, just like you always have. Now, does everybody seated here understand that? And if you guys understand it, then I'm assuming everyone else would understand it too. That I've been at least a little made that clear. So, but it's simply, and it's not even a name change, it's just kind of an enlargement and putting a name to that we feel like gathers a whole lot of things into itself that is going on here and identifies this place locally. Because C.M.I. simply does not identify us locally. There's some ministries that are dedicated to and function on behalf of C.M.I. that take place here. So the Center of Truth, and that does not involve any kind of address change or in your giving any kind of change there either. Now, however, there is a change that is not here locally, but it is within the fellowship. I announced this on the tape you're about to receive, or the CD you are about to receive. But one of the reasons for us trying to get word out about this joint meeting tonight, to have as many tune in as possibly would tune in, is that there's some things I want to talk to you about. And then we'll go on into the other areas of the service and in our open forum sharing as well. And in and just have a good time together and receive your calls. Please do that. Give us a call tonight. But there is a change, and it's in the fellowship. And it is a change regarding our general fund. Our general fund started out years ago, and it was in Atlanta, Georgia. And Brother Pete Tovey, along with the aid and help of Brother Wayne Ballard, handled that. And then it moved to Brother James Tatum, I believe, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and was there for a long number of years. And then, and there were transitions that took place all along the line, and changes in general fund that took place all along the line. From what it started out to be at our Lake House meeting, it had a lot of changes. But Brother Henry Stanley took that over, and helping him with that is Brother Wayne Shelton. And both these brethren have just done a tremendous job. But again, a transition in taking place and in redefining. Actually, as we go along this year, I'll be talking with you about it, kind of redefining general fund as well. But we have another address for you. Our general fund, as far as a bank account, is now located in Tennessee. Now we haven't made that change completely. We still right now we're functioning in Virginia and in Tennessee, but everything is coming toward Tennessee. So we make this announcement. The new mailing address for those who give to general fund. All of our ministerial fees and fellowship fees come into general fund. We still have several group fellowships who give to general fund every month, and we still have several ministers and ministries that give to general fund every month. And just like we have those who give into the research center and all of that. But it's the general fund address that's changing. And of course that's C.M.I. or Covenant Ministries, C.M.I. Post Office Box, P.O. Box 1351, 1351, P.O. Box 1351. And that's in Tullahoma, 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 Tennessee, 37388. 37388. Brother Robert Jones is now the treasurer and the brother who is handling that account. And there is no doubt that it is the mind of the Lord that it is Robert Jones who does that. And I've shared that with our elders who are in agreement on that. I've shared it with others. I'm not going to take all that time, but the way that the Lord worked in Robert's heart, not understanding that any transition was taking place or anything about that, having no understanding at all on that, but just knowing how the Lord was dealing with him, and came and talked to me and offered himself in that way if the need ever did arise. And in about 4 weeks the need did arise. And because I told him, well, brother, I appreciate it and I think that's the Lord. I have no idea when that might come about. But it was about 4 weeks and it did come about. And so that's the address. And Robert Jones, Robert has been involved with and a ministry in this fellowship since the first meeting at the lake house, and must have been in 88, wasn't it, Danny? You were there, 88, I think. Anyway, a number of years, and so we're thankful for him to be able to do that. And we're still announcing this in different ways, and I know that we'll have to announce it a lot because every time we've made a change. So we haven't closed anything out in Virginia completely, so that if it is sent there, Brother Stanley will simply gather it up and forward it right on down to Robert. But we should, over a period of time, and I trust as quickly as possible, get everything straight on that. And again, that involves nothing that's going on here in the research center or anything else. It's strictly general fund. And there's a whole lot of folks who are not involved in that, but then there are those who are involved in it as well. And so that's that announcement. Our goal this year is to extend outreach ministries. Now that could mean anything, but I want to just look at something. I want to talk about sowing. Sowing. No, I'm not talking about sowing your money. I'm talking about sowing. I'm talking about let me see where I'll be. Yeah. Matthew 13, sowing. And I want to be quick. I want to be quick about this too, so let me get on with it. Looking at the Old Testament. Honestly, I'd never looked at this before. And as I call, you and I, honey, any of us we could stay a long time on any one of these verses. My. Exodus 23:10. And 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. Leviticus 19 and 19. And ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed. Neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. Oh God, we could stay here. We could stay here this year. It's called mixture. It's called mixing anything with that which is purely Christ. Thou shalt not sow a mingled seed. Deuteronomy 22:9. Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with divers seeds, lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. Good Lord. Well, I thought we needed to be a little more diverse. The Lord says, defiled. I mean, hon, even what we sow becomes extreme. Becomes extreme. So you see what I'm saying? I got to looking this afternoon and I thought, goodness gracious alive, I could personally live right here. I need this worked in my soul. Psalms 107:37, and sow the fields and plant the vineyards that you may yield fruits of increase. Psalms 126:5, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Hosea 2:23. Hosea 2:23, and I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that hath not obtained mercy, and I will say to them which were not my people, Thou art my people, and they shall say, Thou art my God. Hosea 10:12. Sow unto yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, till he come and rain increase upon you. It's just talking about the working of God in your heart. You know that. Well, all right. Then over in Matthew 6, verse 30, wherefore if God so clothe the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewith shall we be clothed? And when that means take no thought, it means do not make that the center of what your soul is seeking. It doesn't mean that you don't take care of your family and take care of yourself, and sometimes when you go buy groceries, at least have a shopping list. It's talking about that is not the concern of your soul, nor the thing your soul is seeking, which is explained here. For all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth you have need of all these things, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Now I read that because of the term the kingdom of God. Because all of this has to do, this sowing business, with what I've been talking to you about, and what we'll be talking about on at least on the monthly lessons that I'll be sending out, and probably most places where I'll be. And I saw that it had to do with sowing. Outreach, sowing. We'll come to that in a minute. But let me read something else. Matthew 13, 1 through 10. And the same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered to him, so that he went into the ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on shore. And he spake many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls devoured them. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth. Forthwith they sprang up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, other fell into good ground, brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples said to him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? That's verse 10. We're going to fast forward down to verse 16. But blessed are your eyes. He tells them why in these other verses. And he says, But blessed are your eyes, for they see. Your ears, for they hear. For I tell you of an assurity that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom. Now, darling, this is not as we have it sometimes in our local vernacular circulating around through the church world. This is not talking about kingdom word. It's not talking about preaching the kingdom in and of itself. And there's a lot of things this is not talking about. And we're going to explain that in the rest of these verses. But it has to do with sowing. Obviously it does. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, not necessarily the word kingdom, but the word of the kingdom. Remember, the kingdom is the sovereign rule of Christ working in you or in me, in somebody. And there's a word that comes out from that. There's a word that sums all of that up and becomes the word of the kingdom. And when they hear it and understandeth it, it's a word that has understanding connected with it. Then cometh the wicked one and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received the seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed in stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and on with joy receives it, and yet he has no root in himself. He endureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word. This is a little different than just falling on rough times. Things not quite going my way. No. These are tribulations. These are persecutions. These are trials and testings that arise because of that word. Arises because of the word. By and by he is offended. By what? By that word. That word becomes an offense in his soul. Can you believe that? Now, you who have received this into good ground and are bringing forth fruit with patience probably can't understand that. It's difficult for me to understand. God grant that I never fall into the place, or that any of you to even come close to experiencing such an offense. Because that word is Christ himself, honey. It's not a sermon about him, I realize that. And it's not one of all of these hundreds of gospels we seem to have, each one of them focusing upon some spiritual teaching. Now, this is the word that Christ himself is. This is the word that the Father reveals. He also that receiveth among the thrones is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world and deceitful riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. Verse 23, but he that receiveth seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word, understandeth it, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 30, some 60, some 30. Mark 4:14 says, the sower soweth the word. Mark 4:16 through 17 says, these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who when they have heard the word immediately receive it with gladness. They have no root in themselves, and so they endure for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately. I mean, they may be there a long time until certain persecutions come, certain trials, certain testings come with regard to that very word. And then, no matter how long, No matter how long that word has been in them, no matter how long in that ground, when those things come, immediately, that fast, I mean, wham, immediately, offense. Immediately they are offended. Luke 8:11 says, now the parable is this: the seed is the Word of God. The seed is not the kingdom. The kingdom is something that results in you when the seed brings forth fruit. The seed is the Word of God. But that on the good ground are they with an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it, and bring forth fruit with patience. That's Luke 18:15. All of these are the same story in the different Gospels. They on good ground are they which in honest and good heart have heard the word, keep it, and bring forth fruit with patience. Waiting, 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 waiting. Remember I read to you a while ago one of these in the Old Testament, until the Lord come. How long do you wait? Till the Lord come. Till the Lord be revealed. Till the Lord come. I'm not for sure which one of these was I read, but you heard me read it because I pointed it out. Hosea 10:12. For it is time to seek the Lord till he come, and the rain, the work of the Spirit, the rain, righteousness upon you. Yes. With patience bring forth increase. Now, lastly, so I can say what I want to say about this and be done. 1 Corinthians 3. Let's bring it right into the church, right into New Testament ministry. 1 Corinthians 3, 6 through 10. I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Now, he that planteth and he that watereth are one. And every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with God. That means we are laborers with God for the increase. You are God's husbandry, you're God's building, according to the grace of God which is given unto me as a wise master builder. And this grabbed my attention one time and again today. Because you think of a master builder, when you think of a wise master builder, you envision some kind of a huge, 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 huge building with all kind of good stuff. I mean, it's just a marvel to look at. That's what you think of. Paul's idea of a wise master builder was the foundation that he laid. The thing that's never seen. Isn't that odd? The thing that's never seen. Once it is laid. Am I reading it wrong? I don't think so. According to the grace of God, which is given to me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation. And another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereon. And you know what the rest of it says. My point here is the three references made to ministry. Sowing, watering, and reaping the harvest, the increase. Sowing, watering. All right? Now, it is a fact that as a fellowship, and me, for the last 20 some odd years, this has been so with me pretty much as well. But for some time now, we've been focused upon the increase. The increase. There was a time in this word I was involved in sowing. Man, I was scattering seed everywhere. Yeah, really. But I'll leave that for a minute. But I've been there, honey. I know what I'm talking about. I've been there. There was times of watering. My involvement with Bible school and Bible schools. Of watering. I mean, Bible schools in several countries around the world and the United States, I know what that is. But as a fellowship, let's bring it back home. As a fellowship, for some time we've been focused upon the increase. That is, this group, and that group, and that group, and this group, and that group, and focusing upon to bring maturity, to bring forth the increase of Christ. That is not bad. There's nothing bad about that. That's the whole purpose of sowing. But it is the increase that only God can give, and we are laborers together with Him for that increase. And for a long time, that was the order. And we will continue to minister to the increase. There's no doubt about that. You're not going to get rid of those that have come into a degree of maturity and see in Christ. No, you're not going to ever quit that. We'll continue to minister to the increase, to establish those who have heard and turned to see, to secure the foundation, the true foundation, but and I'm speaking now from my heart. Here's what it's all been about tonight. Reading what I've read to you, the whole thing. We're entering into a new time of sowing. I've been there. I've been there. I've been in the time of sowing. I enjoyed the sowing. But we're coming to a new time of sowing again. Reaching out beyond ourselves, reaching out beyond the established groups, reaching out beyond the established believers. In fact, it is those groups and those believers who will be exercised in this reaching out. And we as a fellowship who will be exercised in this reaching out. When it is the time to sit and minister to one to another and speak to one another, then we sit and minister to one another and speak to one another. But sooner or later, in the economy of God, there will be a reaching out. That doesn't mean that you absolutely forsake the other, but you reach out beyond the other. That there be more increase. And the increase is Christ. But the increase of Christ works in believers. It doesn't work in rocks, it doesn't work in trees, and it doesn't work in buildings. It works in people. You understand? And yet the focus is not on people. The focus is on sowing the seed in people. Sowing the seed in the ground. The focus is not on the ground. The focus is on the seed. But the activity is sowing. And that means reaching out beyond yourself. Now, I think many of you are seeing that, and that's what I spoke to before, some of the brethren that I've been talking to. I think many of you are seeing that, or at least the Lord is desiring that you see that. and a God-given desire, yes, more than that, a God-given urgency to reach out, and yet that's hindered by good sense, by good spiritual sense of saying, I know the Lord's not just telling me to jump up and run and go do something. You're right. You're right. But there is an urgency to reach out. The time of renewed sowing, I tell you, is at hand. To sow the Word which is in you, throughout the Lord's body and beyond, by every means that is given to us, and utilizing every ministry in this fellowship and beyond this fellowship. Now this is working in my heart. It's working in me to sow seed everywhere. To go where we've not gone, to reach where we've not reached before. If we have the heart and the commitment, I'm telling you that God will give the direction. Now, it's not just running out somewhere. It's going where the Lord directs, and the Lord will give a direction when He has people who are ready to listen to Him. When He has those who have the increase in them and need to do something with it. When you have the increase of the seed, that's time to sow the seed. You don't make bread out of all of it. Some of it you sow. Well, that's almost getting back to speaking in a parable, isn't it? Well, nonetheless. Now, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about us. I'm not excluding me, but I'm talking about us. And we'll be hearing more about this with regard to vessels of glory. Not glorified vessels, vessels of glory. This will mean an increase of the kingdom in you and in me, and a sowing of that word of increase. A sowing of the word of the kingdom without. An increase within and a sowing without. A reaching without. A reaching beyond. Hon, I promise you, we will be hearing the call, come and share with us. Now, this will come in all kind of forms. It may come in the form of one, or two, or three, or four, or a group. The forms will be different. Don't get a certain form in your mind. Personally, I'm ready to sit with a couple in their living room and sow seed. I'd be just as ready to sit with a group in Timbuktu and sow seed. God's sake, sweetheart, somebody's got to sow seed, and if you don't have it in you, what are you going to sow? God's not interested in us getting out here and sowing rocks and wood and hay and stubble and all of that kind of stuff that's not worthy of the foundation anyway. You sow out of the increase of the seed that's in you. You sow out of the increase of the word that's in you. But you do sow. And that reaches out beyond us. And it'll come in many forms, this call. Come and share. But I'll tell you this. You will recognize the call. I will recognize the call. We will recognize the call when we hear it. I've already been there. I can guarantee you, you will recognize it when you hear it. And to this end, we start with what we have in our hands right now. We start right now. And there's a number of things we're going to do, and I'm not going to go any further into them except to say that we have been blessed with a tool that in a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds, you can reach around the world. Oh, I know the Lord has to direct those out there. Yes, I know that. We never get beyond the Spirit of the Lord and His direction. But a tool will get you there. You may end up getting on a plane flying there, but the tool will get you there. You know what I'm talking about, the internet. But I'm talking about web TV. I'm talking about what we're doing right here in this place tonight. And honey, believe it or not, because of the program that we're on, this thing's going all around the world right now. Right now. You who are hearing it's going all around the world. And it has come to our heart, and it's forcefully come, that since we have this channel on Ustream that is ours, and we can do with it what we want to do with it, that we should be doing something with it 24/7. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 360, we could go on with those numbers, but all the time. We should be doing something with it. We have a live forum on Monday night. We have a teaching on Wednesday night. We do Sunday service live, and thank God for that. We do Spanish segments on Sundays, on Wednesdays, and so forth. But that leaves a lot of time. Nothing's on there other than repeats. So we're launching a new, what do we call it? A new what? Channel. A new channel. And we're going to call it C.M.I. 24/7. In the first place, what we want to do primarily is involve other ministries in this fellowship. I mean, I know that, for instance, our brethren and sisters in Market Street Fellowship up in Ohio, Jason is on the internet. He teaches, if I'm not badly mistaken. Go ahead and sit down and talk with Jason about these things. I'm just talking to you about them tonight. But most of the time, it's kind of relates to what I'm doing. He's teaching a group somewhere or into a particular group. And we've been doing that, and we'll continue to do that. And we may even enlarge that. But I want to get Jason, and if I start naming brethren, hon, I'll forget somebody. So let me not just start it. But I did mention Jason Henderson because of the usage that they're making of the internet. But I'd like to have brethren in this fellowship bound up in this gospel on this channel so that their teaching is the thing that we fill up this time with. Now, if we can't fill it up with that, if it is too much of an encroachment upon some of these brothers' times or this, that, or the other, we'll work all that out as best we can. We're still going to fill it up. We'll go back into our archives here. And we may be able to do that with some others if they have archives available. But we'll go back to 2004, at least about that far, isn't it? somewhere along in there. And the Bible conferences we've had, which have different speakers, many of these brothers that I'm talking about. We may do some editing, I don't know. But my point is, we have material that we can take, recorded video material out of Bible conferences that we've had in different places, some in Mexico, some in the United States. We can put them right up there on Ustream, and they're available to everybody in the world. Isn't that something? Right now, if you want, you can come to our website and download them, or sit there and watch them, or you can download them and all of that, and that's wonderful. But I want to take them off the website and hand them out there to you. So here they are. You don't have to download. You don't have to do nothing. Just click. 24/7. Somebody will be sharing Christ on C.M.I. network. Somebody will be sharing Christ. We want to give these brothers that we have in this fellowship that opportunity. And it will enlarge their outreach, because we function as one and we're sowing the same seed. We don't want mixture. We can't afford mixture. God will put his foot and stomp on mixture. We can't do that. I read that to you a while ago. I could have lived there for a while. You shall not do this. You will defile my seed. Now, hon, I think it's probably a pretty serious thing to do that. And God takes it seriously. But we have brethren in whom the increase is working. I want the world to hear their voice. Among us, we have that. I want the world to hear their voice. I want the church to hear their voice. And at least we can start with the tool we have. And if we don't start with the tool we have, I don't think the Lord will give us a bigger one or another one. We start with the one we've got. So we'll be making announcements about this, and we'll have this ready to go, I trust, before this month, January, is out. And we'll be telling you about it. We're also going to double down on our books. Again, Market Street Fellowship in Ohio is doing a wonderful job on this, of some of the books that they have published commercially. And they are ordering those books themselves and then giving them away and giving them to those, and they're getting a tremendous response on that. We should do more of that. We should do more of that. We have always done that to people who have ordered these books, and we've been happy to give them to them, without charge there. Now, you can go on the internet and you can buy them too. Well, if you do that, the money comes right back in to help us publish the ones that we give away. So it's just kind of a circle. But what I'm saying, I want out from this place as well to increase our printing, to increase our ordering of those that are being printed for us now by Amazon.com. We can order them here. I want to put them into the hands of people that will put them into the hands of somebody else. It's something that we can do right now in sowing the gospel, the word of the kingdom, which is the living word that is in you. And the same thing, we are going to develop a CD. I can't tell you about it until I talk with those that will be involved in it. But we're going to develop a CD that we want to be able to give to every family in this fellowship and every family you know, so that they can invite their friends to come into their living room and watch this CD. We want to present in very clear terms, not in derogatory terms, not in theological terms, and it's going to be an undertaking, but we want to present, let me just use this word, the simplicity of this gospel. What does it mean to be born again? We're not going to be talking about things that we rehearse among the more mature. It's an outreach to those who maybe do not even know Christ. We'll be developing that CD. I'm going to be calling on some of you ministers to help us with that by being on the CD yourself. The idea came to me from while talking to Brother Chad Coram, one of our ministers up in North Carolina. And I'll just leave it right now. But we want to develop that. This is a time of sowing, and we need to use everything that is in our hand. If we do that, the Lord will give us more. He'll open avenues that we couldn't even imagine at this time right now. Hon, a few years ago, I couldn't imagine the avenue we have. But we have it. And it'll increase. And the Lord will give us more avenues. It is the time to sow. We want to involve ourselves in doing that. Hallelujah. Well, I've been a while with that, but I felt like that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this tonight. I wanted to talk to you about where we are and where I think the Lord will take us. But I'm talking about the whole fellowship. I'm talking about ministries throughout this fellowship. Blessed be the Lamb of the living God. I'd like to have our musicians to come back again, and I'm glad for our musicians here tonight. I'm glad they're here, and I'm glad I know it'll be a blessing to you. I want them to come back tonight, and let's have a time of singing, and then we may want to get into an open forum here for a while. We're not going to keep you real late, but I don't know, where else do you have to go? So y'all come right ahead, and let's just sing and worship the Lord for a while, and then we'll still waiting on your phone calls. If you have any reaction to what I've been saying, or anything you'd like for us to deal with, or anything you'd like to share, give us a call or give us an email. Okay, I'm here with Rabin, and we're here with those others that are here. I think I see some are going out to get coffee and cake.
Coffee in and coffee
Yeah, coffee and cake, and some coffee in and coffee out. That's all right. You may be doing the same thing wherever you are. Listen, Brother Jackson, if you're with us tonight, if you got our if you got our invitation, I trust that you did. We may send those invitations out and have all of you to watch it recorded, because I'd like for a lot of people to be involved in what we're saying tonight. But, Brother Bill, if you're with us, I'm talking about Bill Jackson in Texas now, he and Lucy, I'm going to read some of your emails tonight, brother. You've always given me permission to do that. We print a good many of them, in fact. And so in just a moment I'm going to read some of those, because it is certainly along the line in which the Lord has been speaking into many hearts, and into my heart as well. So that's one of the things we're going to do here. And then if you would like to receive these messages, these email lessons, they're usually, when you print them out, not over about a page long, but I tell you, they're always not only thought-provoking, but they're a blessing to my soul. And if you would like to receive these, you'll contact me here at the Research Center. I'll certainly, I can give you his, and I don't have it on any of these printouts, but I can give you his email address. I'm sure he'd be happy to put you on that list. Amen. Anything on your heart particularly right now?
Actually, yes. I mean, but
go after it.
Go do whatever. Well, you were talking about the kingdom, and the king and the kingdom and the rule of the king and all of that. And we actually discussed what's been on my heart, I think yesterday or the day before, or something like that, just a little, we kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
But I've been looking lately a lot of different things, but about the security of our relationship with God. Being that it's secured because it has nothing to do with us. It's solely and exclusively centered in and defined in one Son. And I've seen that in several different places, and I've also seen, and what I want to kind of bring up is, I've seen, and we've talked about this too, that there is a tendency in me to, the Lord, many things come into my heart as a warning. Because you know the Lord is directing, you know the Lord is speaking, but then there's this warning that comes not to take something unto yourself, and always exposing the tendency that's in the heart of man. So, I saw it with Korah and the whole rebellion of Korah against Moses and Aaron, them wanting them, basically Korah wanting the high priesthood himself, to stand before God himself, not submitting to the head that